Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you guys are new here, hi, my name is Sydney. I film beauty videos 3 days a week, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. And today's video is a very exciting one because today I'm going to attempt to dupe the new Dominique Cosmetics Rustic Glam palette. I forgot what it was called for a second. This palette released, what day is it today? I think it's June 5th or 6th today. I think it's June 6th today, the day that I'm filming this. And it is absolutely gorgeous, you guys. If you have been watching my channel for a little while, you might know that I really want to try Dominique Cosmetics this year. But I did a previous kind of shop my steps for dupes video on the Berries and Cream palette, which I can link down below if you guys are interested in seeing how I duped that one and kind of talked myself out of that one. But this one I'm really interested in, and I'm really curious to see if I can find a good dupe or if I should actually go ahead and buy this one. I don't know, you guys. I wasn't sure how I felt about it to begin with, but the more I look at it, it's such an interesting and different color story that I'm actually kind of excited about it. So without further ado, let's see if I can dupe this. So to come up with these dupes, I am just going off of the swatches that Dominique did in her reveal video for this palette. I haven't really seen a lot of other swatches floating around social media just because this palette is so new. So that's what I'm going off of, and these colors might be slightly different because she does have a bit of a deeper skin tone than me, but I tried to account for that a little bit. So yeah, let's just hop in with the first shade. I'm going to scooch over so I can insert that right here. So the first shade in the palette is called Fringe, and Dominique describes this as a basic bronzy taupe shade. And to dupe that, I dipped into my Friendcation palette, and I dipped into this shade right here called Necessary. I would describe this as a matte bronzy taupe shade. It's a good basic everyday shade. It's a really great way to start off your look. So I thought this one would be a very good dupe for that shadow. Plus the Dose of Color formula is amazing. It's so nice to work with. So the second shade in the palette is called Evil Eye, and Dominique describes this as a deep ocean matte blue. I had nothing like this in my collection, definitely nothing matte, and even to get a semi-comparable shimmer shade, I had to mix some colors together. So to get my comparable shade, I dipped into my Juvia's Place Mini Masquerade palette, and I actually mixed these two shades right here, Zola and Dahlia. I think this is a pretty similar tone. I'm not like 110% sure because I feel like this is just such a unique tone of blue, at least to my collection. I don't own a ton of blue shadows. If you do, maybe you have a similar one, but for me, I felt like this one was pretty unique, and I had a really hard time duping it. As you guys can tell, I couldn't even get the right finish. The next shade in the palette is called Free Spirit, and Dominique just described this one as a matte cream shade. This one's a dime a dozen in my collection. I have plenty of these shades. To dupe it today, I dipped into my e.l.f. Matte for Matte 2 palette because I'm really trying to pan this cream shade, and I just swatched that one right there, and I felt like that was pretty dead on for me. So the next shade in the palette is called Cactus, and it is this really cool kind of muted mossy green, as Dominique described it. I feel like this has a little bit of a cooler undertone than like an olive green. I didn't really have anything like that, so I just swatched, I believe this is called Moss from Lixie Beauty. Oh no, oh no, we had a casualty, you guys, we had a casualty. Most of it is still intact, so I'm just going to set that aside and repress it later. But like I said, I used Moss from Lixie Beauty, and I feel like tonally this is just really off. Again, I don't have anything in my collection like this shade, and I think it's absolutely gorgeous, so point for Dominique Cosmetics. This next shade I also had a difficult time duping tonally. So the next shade I believe is called Dream Capture. I could be wrong. I feel like I couldn't hear what she was saying at this point in the video, but she describes this as a sparkly baby blue. So I don't really own a baby blue in my collection. The closest thing that I could find was in my Blush Tribe Blossom palette. And for that, I dipped into the shade Brunera, but as you guys can tell, the shade is a matte blue. So to amp it up, make it a little more shimmery, I tried to get it as close as I could to her swatch. I dipped into my ColourPop Super Shock Shadow. This one's in the shade Rem. It was part of their holiday collection. You guys, this shadow by itself, I absolutely freaking adore. But I did add this on top just to add a little bit of sparkle, make it similar. I still feel like I wasn't quite right tonally with this one, but it's semi-similar. The next shade in the palette is called Wildflower, and it's just a soft matte blush shade. And to dupe this one, I went into my Blush Tribe Blossom palette once again, and this time I dipped into the shade Peony right here. It looks quite deep in the pan, but it does come off kind of a little bit softer, a little more blushier. I feel like this looks darker and a little bit more intense on my skin tone, but that could definitely be because we are of different skin tones. So I don't really know if Wildflower would be quite as punchy on me, or if it'd still be a little bit softer. If it was a little bit softer, this palette does come with a nice white shade, so I can always dip into that to tone things down a little bit. The next shade in this palette was called Suede, and Dominique described this shade as an orange-brown matte shadow. So this one also I feel like is kind of a dime a dozen in my collection because I'm a warm neutral junkie, but I definitely have multiples of this shade. But just to keep this video a little bit more concise and to use as few palettes as I need to, I dipped into my Juvia's Place Mini Masquerade palette, and the shade that I dipped into was Zulu right here, and I felt like this one was pretty darn spot on. I mean, I feel like a warm neutral brown, well, warm orangey brown is pretty easy to come by these days. Next shade in the palette is called Bohemian, and this shade is absolutely gorgeous, you guys. It's just a beautiful copper metallic shade. Now, I definitely own these individually in my collection. For this video, I did mix two shades from the Mini Masquerade palette just to cut down on the number of palettes I was using. To achieve that shade, I mixed Dahlia right here in Casablanca. I feel like Dahlia is just a little bit too light, a little bit too golden to dupe it properly, but these two together are a spot on dupe for that shade, and it is absolutely gorgeous. I don't know why I haven't mixed those two together before, but I definitely am going to start now. Okay, this next one totally shocked me that I had any issue with this at all, because I told you guys I am a warm neutral eyeshadow junkie. I love warm neutrals. I own a ton of them in my collection, but I really could not dupe the shade Desert Queen. It's like this beautiful, like pumpkin-y orange matte shade. It is so stunning. I feel like everything I have in my collection is a little bit more muted, a little bit more brown, but the closest thing that I found was this Sydney Grace Co shadow. This one's in the shade Red Start. This is actually from their old line. It's Feather River Body, but they rebranded. I believe they still have this shade. Like I said, I think this one is a little bit more muted, but it could give a similar look. I could definitely mix it with a more vibrant, maybe corally tone to get a similar look, but like I said, not quite the same. This next shade, as soon as I watched this reveal video and she started to describe the shade, I was like, yep, I know exactly which one I can dupe that with. So the next shade is called Wanderlust, and she describes this as a foiled greenish champagne shade. For this one, I dipped right into my Zodiac palette, and I grabbed the Gemini, which that's exactly how I would describe the Gemini. It's like a champagne, but it has some greenish undertones. This shade is absolutely stunning. It's very unique to my collection. I don't own anything else like it, and I think I duped the Dominique Cosmetics one pretty darn spot on. This next shade I'm a little bit unsure about because I feel like in her swatches it was kind of difficult to tell. It just kind of looked black in her swatches. But this next shade is called Moonchild, and Dominique described it as a navy with blue and purple sparkle. So to dupe that, I dipped into my Friendcation palette once again, and I mixed the shades Game Over and A Moment. I felt that Game Over by itself didn't have those blue and purple glitters, but A Moment, is this called A Moment or The Moment? I think it's called A Moment. Was a little bit too blue right off the bat, so I thought those mixed together were a pretty close dupe. This shade in the palette, I just feel kind of about, honestly. I mean, maybe it's absolutely stunning in person, and I'll see that in some more swatches, or if I do end up picking up this palette, but I'm not the biggest fan of super glittery dark shadows. That's just not my makeup preference. When I tend to do a smoky eye, I tend to do something either mid-toned or light on the lid, but maybe that just means I need to get out of my comfort zone a little bit and try something new. The very final shade in the palette is called Gypsy, and it is described as a foiled purple with violet and silver glitter. So tonally, this was kind of hard to find in my collection. It's kind of a more vibrant purple. I feel like a lot of the purples that I have are a little bit more dulled down, a little bit more muted. And so the closest thing that I found in my collection was from the ColourPop Misunderstood palette, and that was the shade Forest of Thorns? Yeah, Forest of Thorns right here. This one definitely does not have the glitter that she says this one has. It's just more of a metallic shade, and it's kind of a softer metallic. But I think tonally, this is the closest I'm going to get with my collection. So I do just want to really briefly touch on some palettes that I kind of thought of when I was brainstorming like what dupes I could possibly have in my collection. There really weren't too many palettes that came to mind because I feel like this is a really unique color story and really beautiful. So the first one that I thought of was the Zodiac palette from ColourPop. This one has a lot of those blue tones that she included, some of the warm orangey tones right here, some purples, but I feel like these are much more muted, and then those pretty basic shades, as well as that kind of champagne-y greenish shade. I also kind of thought a good sport, mostly for the muted green shades and the purple. The rest, that's kind of where the comparison stops for this one. And then I also kind of thought of Misunderstood. It does have that really pretty purple tone. It does have those two green tones. Again, kind of your staple neutral shades right here. A nice champagne-y shade, the beautiful navy that can be combined with one of these shades down here to create that pretty glittery finish. But I think the best way to kind of dupe this palette was to go in with individual shades and really pick out shades that way, because I really do not have a palette that's anything like this one. So now that we're done with all the swatching, I did kind of want to discuss my final thoughts on my dupe palette, if I'm going to buy the actual palette. So I was counting out the shades, and it's about half and half of the shades that I feel like I really nailed. I definitely have these in my collection, and half shades that I feel like could be really, really unique based on the swatches and the description that she gave. I feel like my dupe, I give it like a 70 out of 10. I give it like a C. It's an okay dupe. I feel like I've definitely done better dupes, and I feel like her last palette, Berries and Cream, I did a much better job duping with my collection. So now for the big question, am I going to buy this one? You guys, I really think I might. I'm definitely going to wait, see some reviews come out, see what other people have to say. I'm sure it's going to be great because all of her other palettes have been really highly raved about. But I want to wait a little bit. I want to see if she's going to have a sale. 4th of July is coming up. Maybe she'll have a little sale around then, and I'll pick it up then. But I think it's an absolutely gorgeous palette. I think she did an amazing job kind of creating this palette, curating this color story. I think the packaging is gorgeous. I love that blue tone, and I love kind of the coppery detailed lettering. And I did want to throw a little disclaimer in. I probably should have done this at the beginning of the video, but we're doing it now. I don't really create these videos to shame anyone who wants to buy these palettes or wants to buy new releases without really shopping their stash. This is just something that I personally like to do with my collection because I'm trying to buy less eyeshadow, and usually if I can convince myself that I have some sort of dupe, I have an easier time saying no to a palette. And I know this is really helpful to those of you out there who are on a low buy or a no buy, so that's why I film these videos. I'm not harshing on anyone. I'm not throwing shade. I don't like that phrase for some reason. But yeah, that's actually gonna wrap it up for me today, you guys. Leave me a comment down below letting me know your thoughts on this palette. Are you gonna buy it? What do you think of the dupe? Like I said, I feel like it was kind of mediocre today, but I'm really glad that I got to sit down and do it on camera with you guys and kind of walk you through my thought process. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button down below. I have lots of Shop My Stash for Dupes videos like this that will be linked down below if you guys are interested in more videos along this line. So that's gonna wrap this video up. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye!